I'm Jimmy Connerman, and I own Renegade Customs and Covers. Located, we're located here in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Um, I guess, and we do pretty primarily everything we do is all just custom interior work. So for classics and hot rods, all these resto mod builds that these guys are doing, and pretty much like I said, we don't do any other restoration stuff. Like I said, that's mainly uh, our main deal that we do with all of our clients. So we do a little bit of boat, some higher end custom boat stuff here and there, but majority of all of our clientele work is going to be like these show car builds and stuff like that. So, um,
Jonathan, if you want to take a minute to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Jonathan Goolsby. Own Goolsby Customs out of Hueytown, Alabama. Build pretty much hot rods, trucks, muscle cars, anything that's I'd say mid 80s back. We don't do a whole lot of 80s, but that seems like the hot thing coming on now. Um, Start to finish in our builds. Recently, we've started doing our own interior. We got a little interior shop and use a lot of the more Giles brands, and we still sub stuff out to certain interior shops, but it does make it a little bit easier doing some of that stuff in house.
Rick, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll bring Sackett and Randy on here as well.
Yes, my name is Rick Fragnoli. I'm one of the owners. Me and my brother are the current owners at Cleveland Pound Performance. We're out of Columbia Station, Ohio, which is right outside of Cleveland. My dad started the business in the 1980s. He's still around and everything, but obviously he's in the retired stage. In terms of types of builds and all that stuff we do, we're probably a little bit more unique. Obviously, we started as a junkyard, so we started with wreck cars and basically parting cars, and from there we came later in life into the custom car building world. We'll do all of our own build stuff. We'll do mechanical, fabrication, body paint, upholstery. We'll obviously use a lot of our parts from our wreck cars. So like we'll have our own seat frames, we'll have our own center consoles. So we have maybe that little small benefit where we can at least go through our warehouse and just pick through, do some measurements, grab some stuff and go. But yeah, we'll just like all the other guys on here, just doing really whatever the customer wants. We'll occasionally do some higher end boat, or every once in a while I'll see the occasional jet seat come through, but really mostly it's focused on automobiles, vintage bikes, stuff like that. We do a lot of modern stuff too because of the junkyard. It does, because a lot of the modern cars that rack, everyone wants, the new Hellcat or the new Camaro driveline or Mustang, whatever it is. So there are people that will want their new Mustang seats done, or their new Hellcat seats redone or stuff. So we will do modern stuff as well. In terms of modern or old, I think it really just depends on the month on what's coming in. Our full builds are definitely the older style, but in terms of these smaller jobs that come through the shop, definitely a lot of the more newer stuff as well.
Great. Well, so let's, I think what I'm going to do is just show a vehicle profile so everyone gets an understanding of what CarBuff is, and then our connection with Moore and Giles, and then Randy, I'll turn it over to you at that point after I walk them through a vehicle profile. So I'm going to do a screen share, and I've got we did a build with Moore and Giles a couple years ago. Are you guys able to see this vehicle profile? Okay.
Yes.
So we took it to SEMA, but we really built it for Easter Jeep Safari. We've had it there twice, had it there this year, and this was actually a photo on a run, the rim run that the guys did there. But this is what the vehicle profile looks like. You just add in pictures of the build, and then I'm going down to, you got your vehicle story. I think it's interesting for people to see kind of the backstory on the vehicles. A lot of these vehicles have a history, so it's kind of fun to know what the history is on the car. but this tech sheet is really what ties it all together. This hyperlinks to all the companies involved in the build. And so it's critical to have the information on the tech sheet because this gives the manufacturers the content. So we actually feed this content into Moore and Giles' website and a handful of other manufacturers. So this is kind of the key component that ties everybody together. And then at the end, it just for the branding, we've got videos and articles that have been written about the car. And then the logos of all the companies involved in the build. And my system is in the process of loading, catching up. So anyways, that's how the system works on CarBuff Network. And then they actually have the builds going into their website. So when a vehicle is profiled and published, it tags the companies that are in the tech sheet. And then those companies receive an email notification with a link to the build. So it's a great way for the shops, the builders to connect with the manufacturers. But it's also a great way for manufacturers to get content for social media, or in some cases, manufacturers have been able to reach out to builders and do ads with vehicles that they weren't aware of. So it's just a nice way for the manufacturers and the shops to connect online. So Randy, I'll turn it over to you if you could introduce yourself and Sackett, and then talk a little bit about Moore and Giles.
Sure. Thanks, Trent, and thanks for hosting this. Modern technology being what it is, we have a slight glitch, but I don't know if that's a bad thing. You can't see me. That's all. That's okay. Can everybody hear me okay on the panel? Jim and Rick and Jonathan, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, pretty good. Real good.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got you loud and clear, my man.
Okay. So again, thanks. I want to thank Trent for putting this together. You know, CarBuff's been around for about, I believe, 14 years now, and this is just a great way to bring some of the folks from the industry, from the different segments of the industry, and give everybody an opportunity to hopefully learn a little something, network with one another, and ultimately support the industry and continue to lift it up so it can continue to thrive. And so I thank Trent for that. With us today, and I'm very, very happy to have our CEO of Moore and Giles, Sackett Wood, who has been in the leather industry for about 30 years and really is a great leader for our company and manages oversees our divisions. We have multiple divisions, automotive being one of them, obviously. But I just want to introduce him and let him talk just a little bit about kind of who we are, a little bit of our history, and what leather means to us and why leather.
Great, Randy. Thank you. And I hope everybody can hear me. I really appreciate this opportunity, Trent. I think this is a great forum for all of us to get together and learn from one another. Thank you all for your business. Just know we really appreciate it. Moore and Giles, real quickly, was started in 1933. We're from an old footwear town. There are 14 factories around here 100 years ago, and we were the second largest producer of domestic footwear in the country, second to St. Louis. Mr. Moore worked at one of those factories, and in 1933, we all know what happened, and he got laid off and founded the company as a finder of footwear material. For the next 60 years, we sold anything that went into a shoe: glue, nails, thread, laces, counters, heels, bottoms, leather, just everything. I came in 1990. We were 6 people, and Don Giles, who hired me, said shoe business is leaving, and so it did. The factories went bankrupt around here and up and down the East Coast, and went to Brazil and China. And we sort of had to reinvent the company and really turn to upholstery leather in general. And started selling cheap leather for a while just to make ends meet, and then really branched out into really to elevate the materials. It took our took our inspiration from ready-to-wear footwear, handbags, accessories, and made upholstery leathers, and found like-minded tanners around the world who appreciated what we were interested in doing and shared the same vision we had for what we thought we could do with upholstery leather. Leather, as you know, is built on sound scientific principles. It's just would like to always remind people that it starts off as a waste material, that we live at the end of the food chain. We are completely controlled by the food chain. There are over 300 million hides generated annually on a global basis. And quite frankly, there's a global demand for beef that exceeds the demand for hides. So our company really believes in creating a purpose and a use for every hide on earth. It's a natural resource that we have. It's a renewable resource. And good conservation is to prevent the wasteful use of a resource. And so we spend our time, have spent the better part of our careers in tanneries working on leathers that we like. Once you get the science right in leather, that creates a canvas whereby an artistic endeavor can ensue if you're curious and patient and willing to play around with the recipes to create, really unique items that have visual and tactile appeal. So we have 2 distribution centers here in Virginia. We have probably 3 to 4 million square feet of leather here at any one time, and probably 800 SKUs. And we're really about creating access to the material across a broad range of markets. And so our markets are residential furniture manufacturing, hospitality design, residential design, private aviation, automotive restoration. And then we have a lifestyle line where we take leathers that we love and apply them to bags, accessories, and furniture. So that's the short, brief history of us. I was thinking as we were getting ready for this call that there's a great, really, synergy and analogy between the restoration automotive market and leather, in terms of that we're taking something that is deteriorating and really breathing new life into it. And I think that and really making it available to the next generation who appreciate it. So I just think that's a good analogy for us to use for leather. We have learned a lot about being in this industry and trying to be a leader in it, just to really understand the personal connection there is with these vehicles and how important it is, the decisions that are made for its interiors, and we are really enjoying this as a fast growing part of our business. So anyway, that's a short, brief history of us. I'm glad to answer any questions and look forward to being on the panel.
Thank you. Thank you, Sackett. And I echo a lot of those sentiments. One of the things that we try to really emphasize as a company is the personal relationships that we can forge with these customers in the industry. And one of the things that I've enjoyed doing has been able to set foot in hundreds of shops over the last several years all over the country. And it's important that we spend the time, the energy, the effort, and the revenue to go and visit your shops and see how you guys like to do business, see what you like, what you don't like, see it in person, be able to shake your hand and say, we're here to support you not only in supplying leather, but how else can we support and serve you? And that's really been my goal when I go out and start seeing shops, get in front of classes to talk about leather and talk about what we can do for the industry and for your business. So I would like to ask a couple of questions here of the panel, and I think what I would like to start with would be, and I put this question to Jonathan at Goolsby's. Jonathan, how would you, in general, approach the design process, especially for the interior of a vehicle?
Designing interior for us really starts with the overall what the car is being used for. So if it's a car that's going to be modernized, say if we're doing a Mustang and we're going to modernize it, we'll kind of, that shifts our energy to the interior, which is all going to be a modernized interior look to it. And if we're going to do something that's going to be more based off of original look, then, that's where the design part comes in on, we're not going to go out of the box on the interior. We're going to try to keep this more original looking to where it fits the overall theme of the whole car.
Okay. And I would ask that same question of you, Rick, at Cleveland Power. What's kind of your take on that as far as how you guys initially approach the design process?
I think obviously Jonathan hit that pretty well on the head there, but if you're going modern, you want to set that before, like when you're in fabrication and all that stuff, way before you get to the leather part, you want to know like what the overall approach to the car is going to be or what the build's going to be. If the customer per se, sometimes I have those guys that maybe don't see the vision in their head or they don't see it. And like Jonathan said, if it's modern, then you got to set for modern, or if it's old school, you got to set for old school. But sometimes too, like I feel like you can get them kind of in their feel. So like say if a guy comes in and through some foam shaping or some other stuff, like maybe you can get them once you have like the main components down, you can't change all that stuff. But like you can get them a few, who knows, something that's basically a poster board drawing, get a few different samples stitched together. Maybe they like a square pattern or a diamond pattern or something, and kind of let them start to feel it in their hand. When they can start feeling their hand and see it with their eyes, sometimes that light goes on the customer's head, and then the customer kind of starts to get back on page with like what the fabricators and the builders are on. So if possible, you always like them to maybe be able to, see it in their own, if even if it's by touching or even if they're out stating, you got to email the video or whatever, just let them kind of hopefully get their head. Some people just don't see it. Like when we're car builders, we don't do what they do for an everyday aspect of their job either. So sometimes they just don't see it. I guess they see it at the end when it's a show, it's not all pretty. So once you have the design like old school, new school, or whatever, you got that main part down. If possible, I always like try to send as many samples out as we can. I mean, samples, not just of the, the nice leather we get from Warren Giles, but also like some different design patterns, some different stitching, who knows, a French seam, a double stitch, just something to show them where they can have, oh, this looks nice, or it gets their wheels turning.
Right. And I would have, and Jimmy, to you, the same point to you, Jimmy, you're not building the cars per se, but what's your approach with I know you're fabrication and such, but what's your approach with the customer on the design side as upholstery interior shop?
So one thing that we've really got into and really been pushing more towards, as a company and as a business here lately is, connecting with the customer, because most people are not visual. So when it comes to kind of coming up with a design, we've actually really started relying more on technology to kind of help out with that. So we've actually got into doing a lot of 3D scanning. We do. I'm kind of an artist. I've done art for a long time, and so I've always liked to draw, and even as a kid growing up. So that's kind of a little bit of where some of my background on the art side of it comes into play. But I will do hand-drawn renderings for a lot of our clients of a seat design or even a full interior rendering, and it seems to really help kind of solidify the design from a design aspect and tying it in with what their goals and aspirations are for their build, especially because since we don't build the whole car, we're a very builder focused company, so we work directly with kind of servicing builders to just for the guys who don't do their own interiors, and they kind of struggle to they'll have really nice builds, but they'll struggle on the interior side because we are few and far in between anymore, it seems like. So so really being able to connect with someone else's build, to me, I feel like just I look at it all as art. And so I try to take an artist approach to it to, kind of connect with these guys and build them something that, get in their head, what do you like? And just really kind of figure out what amenities they want to, add into this build. And, do you want, wireless chargers? Do you want this? And all of it kind of comes down to budget, which is a huge part of this game. Cause, I always feel like the interior guys, they get the bottom of the barrel sometimes on some of the builds. They'll spend all the money on the paint and motor and everything else, and we get down to the interior, and then we'll struggle to get the interior to where it can be the same as the build. But we really, like I said, I really try to push obviously to build the best thing that we can build, and connecting with the customer is huge in that, and letting them see it beforehand.
Right. And that's Yeah, that's a good way to lay it out and think of it in the sense of creative art, and that's really what these interior guys do is they're artists, and they do it at a high level, like you're all doing it. And I had a question, Rick. I'll ask this of you. Who was your early inspiration and influence in this industry?
Yeah, so like early influence in the industry would be my dad, just being like the company was nowhere near what it is now, but just his passion for he kind of stumbled in the car industry for lack of words. He knew he always liked it, but he wasn't a lifelong car guy. And he came into it probably in his like 50s or something. So like that was like the foot in the door, but like the company wasn't what it was. And then like in terms of when you get in here and you see all these other great builders and all these other high-end cars and stuff, as you start going to shows, and at the time I was probably coming either in college or right out of college, and you always saw like back in the day, like the overhauling show or whatever, like Chip Foose was always doing all those shows and everything. So the time I want to say I was maybe in like my third year of college or something. So you always wanted to go see like one of those Foose builds up close or see all this stuff you'd see on TV. That was really pre-internet, really taking off where the internet was. So like I always like, a lot of the early Foose builds and stuff. That probably was the age I was coming up into the world where you're looking for the outside inspiration. Obviously the overhaul show, but all that stuff. And then I feel like the shows in theory, like there's a TV show on every like couple minutes or whatever. But in the beginning part, like when my dad passed on, like my dad was never doing like per se any of the build stuff like any of these guys on this panel be doing now. I would say in the outside world is probably just going into a lot of the early cars, Chip Foose was building and stuff like that.
Chip Foose, a worthy example for a lot of folks in the business, and grateful we have a nice relationship with Chip and have worked with him as well, and never amazes me, ceases to amaze when you see that guy in public. He's so nice to everybody and always has time for everybody, even as in high demand that he is, and just enjoy the fact that he continues to be a strong influence in the industry. So thank you for that input, Rick. And my next question would be back to Mr. Sackett, our CEO. Sackett, I would just ask you this in general terms. How do you differentiate, or how would you tell somebody to differentiate in your mind difference between quality leather and not so great quality leather?
Well, that's a good question, Randy. I think my answer to that would be that good quality leather starts with good quality tanners. And we've tried to really align ourselves with partners and really all over the world who, I don't think any of us on this call know anybody that's graduated from high school or college and saying, I really want to be a tanner. So these are old relationships, family relationships, generational families who the modern tanner is a very highly compliant, has modernized in technology and equipment, has access to the best ingredients that can go into these leathers in terms of fat liquors and waxes and oils. They have the best access to the best hides. For instance, the best hides come from Europe right now. Really, Southern Germany would be a premium brand of raw material where there's no barbed wire, there's no branding. They've eradicated the flies and insects that sort of harm hides. They live longer, and so you get and a lot of the leather that we use in this industry is European raw material. They're cleaner, bigger hides. So I think that these tanners, like this industry, the easy thing to do would be to throw these hides away. The hard thing to do is to make beautiful leather out of them. And I think you could say the same thing here, that the easy thing to do with some of these cars is do nothing. But because there's a deep affection and appreciation for what could be, that you can take these cars and turn them into really something beautiful that are even more valuable than they were before they started a long time ago. It's such a unique story. The fact that leather can find its way into this web of design for these vehicles, it's just an amazing story. So I think that again, to your question, you have to be with the right partner. You can't be a modern tanner, be a backroom operator. These tanners are not just compliant, but good stewards of the environment, good stewards in their communities, good leaders in their industry, are committed to transparency and really evolving into the next generation. So we have our relationships are 20 and 25 and 35 years old, and we're dealing now sometimes with the children of the grandparents that when we started. So we feel really good about these relationships. And I would just add one more thing, is that there's unique geography in leather. So it's a lot like cooking. Spanish food is different than American food, is different than Thai food, is different than Italian food. You have that same sort of diversity in leather, and that the water and the ingredients used in the region really shape what the leather can be. And we just learned that by osmosis over time. So it gives you, I think it gives us a full menu of articles to choose from, which I think makes a difference. So,
thank you. Yep, that is good information, and that is true. We like to think we've got a really great offering for our customers, and those are some of the reasons why. And those long-standing relationships have been key. So I would like to ask Mr. Jonathan Goolsby, when you take on a new client, are there any questions you ask before starting the work to help make the relationship, the process go smoother, other than how much money do you have to spend?
I think the biggest thing is like, what are we going to do with this car? What's the plan with it? Are we going to just show it? Is it going to sit in your garage? Are you going to drive it? All that varies in which direction we're going to go with on the build. It even ties into the interior, how crazy they want to get with that, because if it's something they're going to just throw the kids in the back and not, groceries or whatever, then, we do a different approach on how all that gets built. And a lot of it is sitting back and, like I said, schooling them on the brands that we know work best, find out what they want, what we're going to do with it, and steer them in a direction that a car that we want to build for them that they love also.
Great. Well, I know that you've had a little bit of success with that, Jonathan, so you know what you're talking about. And we appreciate seeing your works of art at these different shows and whatnot. Just to kind of a follow-up on that, and I'll leave it with Jonathan. Do you have a process internally, like benchmarks or so, for different departments that you know that the project, almost like quality control, is turning out as expected? Are there instances you have to intervene personally and say, hey, this is not right, we got to go back and redo it? Or how's your process look on things of that nature?
A lot of it's having the right people in place. I'm growing up into this, a true believer. You can't do all of it by yourself, so you have to have a good team behind you. I have, Ben's in the office, and then I have Heath out in the fab shop, and then Jeremy handles a lot of the interior. So everybody's got their positions that kind of oversee things as they work also. Same as me, I stay in the paint shop and I handle a lot of those guys. So we tackle each department. And it does come to the point where I'm pretty picky about a lot of things, and I'll get in there and there'll be one thing that I don't like, and we'll address it. And then, and if same thing with the guys, if they see something they don't like, they'll address it to me, and we'll make a call. So it's a good team effort between, the 3 or 4 of us that are here handling all of it. So, one issue arises, and we've got, good people to kind of take care of it and make sure it goes away.
Well, and that, yes, and I have to say that you're talking about something that was kind of leading into this next topic, and this will be for everybody to want to chime in on. Your people, I'm amazed at the number of shops that I go into, automotive particularly, but even on the aviation side, who say, Randy, do you know anybody? Hey, I'm looking for somebody for upholstery shop. I'm looking for somebody. And it seems to me that we are in a industry-wide, correct me if I'm wrong, on the builder side, and Jimmy can speak to this on upholstery side, especially for we're short finding good people, qualified people, upholstery type people that want to continue to do this craft. I always have seeing and hearing that, upholstery, interiors, designers and stitchers and fabricators are kind of a dying breed. Are you guys seeing that as well? Is that your biggest challenge? And anybody can answer it. You all can chime in on this because I'm curious to see what everybody has to say on this.
No, I'll say, yeah,
Well,
I believe that is, I think that's the biggest issue for everybody in my part, like going to the shows and stuff. It's the parking lot talk. We all get together after a show and, it's, talking about needing more employees. You got more work than you can handle. And if you could only get it out fast enough, but I think that's the biggest thing is just trying to find qualified people. Or at this point now, I think if you can find somebody that's got the willing to learn and want to take directions and you can mold them into what you want, I think that's a plus right now.
yeah, we've actually experienced pretty much the same. I think it's like Randy was saying, it's definitely an industry wide. Matter of fact, I don't really think it's just industry wide. I think it's kind of across the board in a lot of different industries. But it just very much impacts, especially on the upholstery side, just because, I think for a very long time, leather crafters or, upholstery workers have been in, high demand, but there's not been very many of them for a long time. So you either find your guys who are have a lot of quality issues or a lot of bad habits that they've developed over years if they have done it, and don't really meet up to a quality standard, or when you have the guys who are really good, they'll just be so covered up that either if they're good, they're busy.
Yep.
So that's what I've experienced. If anybody that I have found that I've tried to hire or bring on an additional person, so I think we've kind of taken the approach with that as, I have a few guys that have shown interest, and I've trained a lot of guys over the years, and sometimes they last, they may go a couple years and I'll put a bunch of time into them, and then we'll turn around and they'll either fizzle out or decide to go and do something else or whatever. And that's just kind of part of the game. But I think we've kind of taken the approach of staying small, and being a little more selective about the types of jobs that we're taking in. I mean, fortunately, we're blessed and we're as busy as we typically want to be all the time, which is great. But I mean, I'd like to be able to do more, but that's probably one of our biggest issues is being able to find guys. But like I said, I'm always willing to train. So if there's anybody that's ever wanting to come and learn how to do what we do, like I said, it's if they meet the cut, they're welcome to come on.
Yeah, I think Jonathan and Jimmy hit that both on the head. I mean, like it's like on our end, we had like the benefit of like the all these extra parts. So like say maybe 15 years ago, like the local colleges, the local high schools, whatever technical programs, we'd be like, we'll donate you guys whatever you want, sheet metal, broken differentials, engine blocks, like whatever you guys want, we'll literally give it to you. And then you hopefully build the relationships. And then as those kids kind of go through the schools, and then you used to get like whatever, hey, I got two really good guys come out, they want to come down and interview. And then maybe that's, 15, 20 years ago, like lately anymore, none of these places even pick up the parts. Like it's free. Like I'm literally like, you want differentials? Cool. You want doors? Cool. You want seats? You want leather? Like whatever you guys want, we'll donate to try to get like the referrals and stuff out of these younger kids. And like, I think the last 2 years, I bet you like we shipped some stuff out of state to a couple different colleges. There's not even like, I think the whole industry, not just the car industry and the guys mentioned, maybe that blue collar industry, working with your hands, like it's just there's less and less and less. And now we just end up eventually tossing this stuff out because like you can't even get the people to even get like the younger ones even get interested in it. Like the guys were mentioning, you get someone that's young, has the right attitude, and they're, moldable and they want to show up and not, have all their skeletons in their closet come out the first few months. You hope a handful of them could, make it through, and you hopefully, like the guys are saying, you might have to go through 4 to hopefully get one to stick. But as a company, it's a lot of training. It's a lot of going through, and like the days of like, we're used to get like a bunch of whatever qualified, whatever body guys, paint guys, upholsterers, whatever it is, mechanics, fabricators. They just don't walk through the door anymore. I think it's just less and less each year doing it. And, like the guys were saying in terms of work, yeah, thankfully we're just as booked too. But man, like some of these customers, like, like I'm trying, like I know between the parts shortage and the employee shortage, sometimes you don't like get these cars out as fast as you want. Like, so I think that's definitely a big struggle. I know like on our end, and some of the other guys may or may not feel it, but like it's like you always want to finish every car. I think internally we feel the pressure probably more than the customers feel the pressure.
Yeah.
Like Jonathan said earlier, some of these cars you finish, like you bust your butt on, and they just go into a collection, they never even see the road. but you still got to finish them. It's still a job. It's still a paying job. So yeah, like I'd love to hire, you know, a person or two for every department we have. I think just it's tough to even find the people or even people even interested in doing it anymore, yet alone skilled at it.
Yeah, that's yeah, appreciate all your answers and that echoing that overriding need right now. And so it really struck me about 2 years ago. I had just come off the road and I was just moving from Arizona to South Carolina at that time. And I had made my last road trip through Arizona, down through Texas, and eventually made my way into South Carolina. And I had stopped about 16 of shops, and I take pretty good notes. And the one common note that I had written down on every single one except for one shop was looking for upholstery, looking for upholstery, looking for upholstery guy or gal.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, man, this is getting to a crisis mode if we don't do something here. And I feel strongly about this. I know Sackett backs me up on this. You know, we're about trying to help educate the industry. So, you know, I participated some in the mobile solutions classes that are teaching folks various things with fabricating and stitching and talk to them about leather and try to help. And also participate in Cato's Custom Upholstery. Everybody on the call knows who Cato is. And he's a well-respected guy, and he has now out there in Salt Lake City, and he has his classes. So I'm encouraged that there is now what I'm seeing a bit of a demand for folks to go to those types of classes. So it's going to continue to be our mission to put more education out there, to drum up more interest, to try to keep the industry going. And I think someone like Gil at Speed and Design, a lot of you guys know who he is over here in Tennessee. He's going to start doing the same thing, offer the same type of learning classes out of his shop outside Nashville, just like Cato's doing. Because a lot of folks hit me up and say, hey, I can't afford a trip clear out Salt Lake, or, you know, it's so far away. Is there anybody going to do it on this side of the country? So I want everybody on the call to keep that in mind. And we would want, you know, support from anybody that would want to support and come and talk about various things and try to keep this industry going. But I think that's one of the big challenges out there for us as we continue to go forward. So appreciate everybody's input and thoughts on that. I'm going to flip this back to so kind of a little quick round here of some fun questions, and I'm going to get this to Sackett right away. Sackett, what was your first car you owned?
Oh my goodness. I think it was a 67 Dodge Dart that my father bought for $400, and I thought I was living good. So, and it was great.
And did you do any work to it? Did you modify it? I mean, did you jack it up, put slicks on the rear or anything?
There was no money for any work. It did what it needed to do. It got me to school and home from wrestling practice, and you know, you could turn the steering wheel about 360 degrees 2 times before it started turning. It did what it needed to do for me.
Perfect. Jonathan Goolsby, what was your first car?
Toyota Celica hatchback. First thing to do, you had back then, you heat the springs up to make it lower. So yeah, that was the first car I ever painted. Heated up the springs. Every time you had jacked that thing up to change a tire, the spring would fall out of the back. I mean, it was you know, whatever you had to do to just look cool. It didn't matter if it rode like crap or what. It's just you had that style points.
I equate that to almost like some of the women's high heel shoes that are very painful. It's about the look, not so much about the comfort.
Yep, so, exactly.
What about you, Mr. Rick? What was your first car?
I had I think it was an 83 Jeep CJ, and I think I bought it when I was like maybe 14 or 15, but then I got myself in a lot of trouble when I was younger. So by the time I even turned 16, I already had to sell because my dad was real mad at me. And so my license was suspended before I was even 16 for driving before I should have been. So that was a punishment. So that first car never even got to it. You know, it's an age. If you're 15 or 16, you can drive, but apparently, you know, some states didn't think so. So got pulled over before I was even 16, and so I had to go. So that That car is a total POS, no floorboards. It caught on fire from someone else, and like we wired up just enough, like John was saying, like it went down the road, but like I wouldn't say safe. And it
Yeah.
probably would have caught on fire again, and the floor pans weren't there, and it was just, yeah, but never really got very far with that one. So that would have been the first one.
Well, you survived it. Let's say that. How about you, Jimmy? What was your first car?
Oh man. So my first car, I'm actually in the same boat with Jonathan.
Hmm.
I had a little tuner. It was actually a Mitsubishi 94, I believe, if I remember correctly. It was a 94 Mitsubishi 3000 GT SL. And
Wow.
it was a little hot rod, and it got me in more trouble than I needed to be in. And it went to its sad grave of it met a ditch. It didn't make it too long before it caught up with me. So, but yeah, it was good while it lasted.
Good times.
Seems like those vehicles of that era, the more letters they could put behind it, XLT Limited
Yeah.
Plus, the more valuable it made it sound like. So, well, I would like to ask Rick, any interesting industry trends you see upcoming in any fashion, whether it's different engine stuff. I mean, it doesn't have to be interior necessarily, but anything that you're seeing on your end?
On our end, it's weird. So I keep thinking the electric stuff's going to take off, and obviously there's a ton of builders doing it so far. But like on our end, we're so booked out with like the gas stuff. Like I'd be lying if I said like, man, we really got I would have liked to have already been into one by now, so we're not so behind the eight ball. But when you have people booking jobs and booking work and stuff, it's tough to say. You don't want to say no to money, but like I do feel like at some point it's probably going to become a trend. Obviously, it hasn't yet. Obviously, at SEMA, there's a couple electric builds. Obviously, they're very high end. They're nice stuff. On our end, I thought that would have maybe taken off a little bit more. And on ours, like I feel like maybe like it's weird. But, like I feel like just because the industry or the area where we're not per se in like a very hoity-toity part of the country, I feel like it seems like a lot more people like that 1%ers are kind of starting to get back into like, hey, I have a jet. Can you do an interior? And I'm like, wow, good for you. I do not have a jet. So like maybe that stuff's starting to happen. So like maybe on the upholstery end, like I feel like we're getting a lot more jet seats, jet calls, jet interiors. So good for people for having jets. Hopefully one day we all have jets, but right now we are just a pinch off of that market. So
Couple zeros, huh?
yeah, just a few out of that market.
Well, what about you, Jonathan? Are you seeing anything trend wise that you would call trend, or people asking for something? I know it might be going a run of muscle cars only, and then you might get into a run of old classics or whatever.
To me, I think towards the full overall build part of it, if it's hot rod, truck, or classic or muscle car, they want the same quality, the high end quality, but they want to be able to drive them. I think drivability has gotten to be a big thing right now. Um, all these tours and going to shows and then tours that are outside of the shows and going to cruise in stuff like that. Everybody wants to drive them, so that's gotten to be a big thing with making everything modernized and have old sheet metal, but just like they're driving their regular everyday car, they're still getting good gas mileage and AC and Bluetooth and then it jumps in the interior. Everybody, it seems like 3D printing everything's gotten to be the new big thing right now. Or not so much
Yeah.
new, but that is a way of going things.
Well, that's a good point. I do think there is more regional car shows popping up every year, and I do notice that there's more participation. People want to actually participate in the vehicle that they had built or modified or new interior put in to take it to the local show.
Yeah.
I see more of that too. Jimmy, are you seeing anything on your side, strictly interior wise? Anything? I mean, Diamond's
Man, so
on the inserts, but is there anything that you're seeing or customers asking for in particular?
yeah, so one thing that I've seen a lot of is these four-wheel drives are really hot. Like I feel like right now it is kind of crazy because I have more four-wheel drive just in general vehicles on our build schedule right now than I think we've ever had, and it's all for very high level finish builds. Like, so there's a lot more the show side on the four-wheel drive side of this, but there's a lot of these that are they want a high-end finish interior put in a four-wheel drive that is also drivable. They're not just going to show it, they're also going to use it for a weekender or whatever. We've done a couple of them, finished a few of them here just recently, but as far as on the car side of things, I mean, that's as far as on the interior side, like Jonathan was saying, the 3D printing, 3D scanning, I think that is a product with some of the CNC technology and everything else. A lot of guys are turning, I know us included, are turning towards that because of the lack of being able to find the manpower. Back in the day, everything was just built by hand, the jigsaw and Bondo and everything else, and you get in there with a sander and make it happen. And I found that that becomes extremely expensive because our most expensive thing that we have is our time and our man hours. Out of all of these builds, that ends up being the one of the biggest ticket items in the whole thing. So one thing we've done is started turning more towards the technology side and investing in equipment and CNC machines and laser tables, and we've got a couple different 3D printers and and 3D scanners. So we're actually been just slowly adopting more of that technology, just to try to keep up and keep ourselves relevant and up with the times and kind of on the front end of what's going on. But it also helps improve finish qualities and everything else with some of these builds, especially very intricate build items or things that normally would not be obtainable to build by hand.
Right. Yeah. So you're making the process more efficient with that type of technology, but you're still giving it an old school craftsmanship look at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the thing is, I think a lot of people don't really, they think of the 3D printing and all that as almost like there's a lot of old school guys I'll see, I participate in a lot of like Facebook groups and stuff like that for the upholstery, just because I kind of back a lot of that stuff. And there's one in particular that's a newer group that has started. A couple of guys that I know started it, and it's like an upholstery auto tech group on Facebook, and it's grown rapidly, which it's just cool because I see a lot of interest in this industry, through those little windows. But that's what's funny is a lot of these older school guys will complain and gripe about all of it's cheating and all that, but I think what people don't realize is how much time and effort really goes into the design process. It's just a different approach to an old school technique, essentially. So by me sitting behind a computer and actually we're doing a 63 split window Corvette right now, and 100% of this build, we actually 3D scan the entire car from front to back on the interior, headliner and all, and we're more or less engineering everything for this build all in CAD. So there's a ton of hours sitting behind the computer that's put into it. But it makes the labor end of it when it comes to the fabrication side a little bit easier. There's still a lot involved, but it does take some of the pain out of that a little bit.
Absolutely. And yeah, and Will's explanation there. Zach, I have a question for you. It's pretty simple. Why leather? I mean, it's the ultimate performance material. I'm stealing your quote, but it really is. Can you just versus cloth or vinyl or whatever?
Well, I think that people forget how long leather's been with us. I mean, when mankind began to roam, he needed something to put on his feet, to clothe himself, to shelter himself, to protect himself from his enemies, to use his weapons against his enemies. All that was leather. So if you ever go to the Museum of Natural History in New York, see how much leather you see in there. So I think sometimes people forget how long it's been with us, but they also forget that it's a waste material. And to make something useful out of waste material is the definition of recycle. And so it's the original sustainable solution to a waste problem. It is the original performance material. Mankind has never been able to duplicate anything close to the structure of leather. And I think the last thing I would say that relates to our call today and to our partnership with the gentleman on this call, on this panel, is that things that last matter, and people appreciate things that last. And leather is a good partner. And I speak on behalf of not just Moore and Giles, but on behalf of the leather industry. Leather is a good partner on things that last, and so I think that that's a great partnership for us. And we really appreciate the ability to be able to serve this industry in the way that we can.
Absolutely, thank you. And one thing that we have talked about on some of our calls internally at Moore and Giles, and it's to Sackett's point, is if you ever took the fiber structure and looked at it under a microscope of leather, to his point, it's never been duplicated. It just has a random pattern to it. And so it gives it strength, durability, against tearing, ripping, etc. So I've never known anybody to get in a car and go, "Oh man, smell that vinyl." It's always smell leather, right? Leather smells.
Yeah, and it's breathable too. Put it on, and I think that's an important point too. So.
Absolutely.
I'd have to say the last couple of shows we've been to, that's the main thing. Everybody sticks their head in there and like, oh, that smells brand new in here.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's what
that's what we like. Yeah, and I know that I appreciate everybody today. This is right. The kickoff full into show season. Good Guys is coming up this week. In Nashville. I know Jonathan's busy getting ready for that. He's got Ben running around.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be on this call, but we demoted him and we brought in Jonathan. So
they're out there again. We're going to take 3 of them. They're all 3 all new interiors too. So
yes, exactly. And you guys are busy, and I know Rick's busy going a million miles an hour, and I know my man Jimmy is busy, and we appreciate being able to be a small part of your projects, your builds. We want to give you the very best service, and we really hang our hat on that. At the end of the day, that's who Moore and Giles is, and that's what we're about, doing the right thing and taking care of our customers. And I'll leave it open for any other questions anybody wants to ask. Anybody got anything that Trent, do you have anything that you want to ask of anybody before we sign off here shortly?
Yes, I do actually, and this is for any one of you or all 3 of you. So I know Jonathan and Jimmy, not sure, Rick, how long you've been in the upholstery business, but there's other companies out there. I know, Jonathan, you were working with another company when I first met you. Why Moore and Giles? I mean, you guys have options out there, but I think because we're talking with Moore and Giles, you guys are all representative of them at events, and you have your pick, I'm sure, of any of those companies. Why this one?
Biggest thing is quality of the material, and I'd say the people behind it. It's always good if you have an issue or if you need something, or it's a phone call away. I've run into situations where we needed this or that, or something was wrong on our end, and I can make a phone call, and Randy's usually there to take care of me, and that's support is a huge part of this whole industry. Because so many people are involved in just making a car work, and to have all them and like Randy and more guys to be there just a phone call away for anything, that's the biggest part of it to me.
Yeah, I absolutely, Jonathan, I absolutely agree with you. I think I personally have used other companies before we started using Moore and Giles, and discovered their product. And I will say we've had less quality issues. And my thing is what people don't realize is when it comes to actually working with the leather, quality is everything when it comes to leather. They're hands down. If you work with lower end leathers, it will take you more time to produce a good looking end result by using a leather that is subpar or doesn't meet up with the standard that Moore & Giles does. If it has, like a low moisture content, or if it's, old or dry or has too much, correction done to the leather, you will not know that there are problems with that leather underneath that surface coating. And then you put it on a seat and you hit it with any kind of steam or heat, and you start having scars and bug bites and stuff that will show up, and you have a ruined seat, especially if it's going in the high end build, and that can be extremely costly. And the only person that'd have to pay for it would be us as the builder.
Mm-hmm.
And so the quality and of the leather, in my opinion, is one of the most important things. And then secondly, like Jonathan was saying, is the relationship, and having a company who stands behind my business as much as I stand behind their product. To me, that's as equally as important as the quality of the product. Because, by them promoting us, it's just like today, by them inviting us to participate in an event like this, and just to meet and get the chat with you guys. I mean, it means a lot, and it makes us valid and relevant in this industry, and lets our voice be heard. And I think that's super. That's just superb. So yeah, I mean, that's why they're the only guys we use.
Like a big family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're relatively new to the leather, like, upholstery thing. We probably only got into this maybe in the last, say, 5 or 6 years. And I'd be lying if I said I was a leather expert. Like, there's a lot of learning going through. And I think Jimmy said earlier, by the time you get to the leather end of these jobs, a lot of these people are either out of money, they're bored with the project, they don't want to, whatever. They're either out of money, they don't want to throw their budget at. So like, if you go through and you start stitching a seat, or you start getting into a hide and it's too far, and that hide is per se, garbage, you got a bunch of bug bites or stuff coming out, a lot of times you're past that point, and maybe that leather is no longer available, or you can't get to it. So like, you want to have a quality product you can rely on. Or maybe sometimes that guy picked that leather 6 months or a year ago, because he's made 13 fabrication decision changes, or something happened with his budget where that car got paused. You want to be able to take that leather back off the shelf 6 months, a year later. You hope not, but like, when it happens, you want to have confidence when you pull that leather off the shelf that it's not oh boy, this is an issue. And if there is something that pops up, that's what's great is with the team. Like, I mean, I think last year Randy stopped in and brought cookies his wife made, like, right around Christmas time. And I was like, "You just stop in and bring cookies, man?" He's like, "Yeah, I was just coming through the air. My wife made cookies." And I'm like, "You stopped in to make cookies, man?" They're like, "That's awesome." Like, there's FedEx. Like, I appreciate it, but like, that's awesome. Alexa's always phenomenal too. Like, I mean, I email Alexa like the most random questions. I'm like, "Alexa, like, I don't know, but like, you got to help me with this." Like, I feel like at times she gets this email and she's like, "What?" But she always does it. So like, between her and Randy and everything, I think the quality and the customer service, I know the other guy said, but it's really true. Like, you want to have faith in that hide when you roll that thing out, that you're not going to have issues. You want to have the people on the other end of the phone call. Like, everything today is so automated where you can't get a hold of anyone. You can get a hold of Randy, you get a hold of Lex, you can get a hold of other people, and you can get stuff going. We're like, oh yeah, hey, I'm in a pinch, I need this now, and they hop right on it. So I guess a huge thing is customer service is like something that I feel like, we sound like old, but like, it's something that happened back in the day. It is so nice to have real customer service in today's industry.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I could just add a few things. Thank you for that. I mean, just know that we appreciate those comments, and I would just say that, and I say this about every industry we serve, that our design aesthetic when we are making a leather is not how much we do to the leather, but how little we need to do to it to keep everything we think about as beautiful intact. And then, as specifiers and designers who are putting leather in projects, no one should look inside in your car at SEMA and say, "I wonder if that's leather they used in there." They should say, "Look at the leather they used in this car," because that's going to be a shining light on everything else as well. And I think that our aesthetic is, what is the visual appeal, what is the tactile appeal, and let's leave it alone after that once we get it to where we want. So we try not to overdo things and over complicate it. So.
Well, thank you guys, and thank you, Sackett, for your comments and your input today, and everybody on this panel. Thank you for the nice things the comments you had for us about Moore and Giles. Your checks are all in the mail for that. Appreciate
The
it.
cookies. We need them cookies.
But seriously, guys, we couldn't do what we do at Moore and Giles without you all, and that's the bottom line. We need your customers to serve and take care of and be good partners with. And Trent, on that, I'm turning it back over to you to wrap it up, sir.
All right. Thanks, Randy. Yeah, we appreciate everybody on the call. There's a couple things that are in my mind right now. Sackett mentioned it. Everybody mentioned it. But the value of relationships, which is what this is all about. There's lots of product out there. There's lots of high quality product out there. But I think what makes the biggest difference working with a company, a manufacturer, is beyond the product. It's the relationship. It's how responsive they are. I know Randy is on the road a lot because whenever I talk with him, he's somewhere different usually. And I think that's pretty unique for someone from a company the size to be making those personal connections in the shops. That's rare. But it shows how serious they are about being involved in the industry. And I think that's pretty special because that's the way the industry was built. It's built on relationships and having these personal connections. And when you're talking about representing a brand like Moore and Giles, I mean, I've seen Jonathan, your trailer out there with the hides hanging, and it's so important for a company, a brand, to have representation out there that they can trust. And that goes beyond the title of brand ambassador. That's a customer. That's somebody that understands the value of the product they're putting in their car, because when they're at the events, they're talking about it. But it all goes together, and it all comes back to the relationships and why somebody would choose to do business with a manufacturer. But on the flip side, this manufacturer chooses who they want to work with, because I've had those conversations with Randy as well. They're not they're careful about the association, who they're working with. So in our industry, where our reputation is really all we have besides the relationships, it's critical that we are aligned with companies that we like and we trust. And so I would say that as we're trying to figure out how to propel the industry and bring in young people, we keep that in mind as we're talking with them. And Jonathan, you're very involved with young people at the events, trying to encourage them and help them. But I think we have an obligation in the industry to help bring in young people and help them understand the path, the potential, but really hitting home to them that it hinges on relationships. So I appreciate that being brought up on the call, and appreciate everybody that has been involved in this panel discussion today. I apologize for early on in the meeting. I'm learning this is our first time working directly with the manufacturer, with Moore and Giles and their customers. We do a monthly Zoom webinar, and we're 3 months into that, and the technology can make you or break you. So anyways, appreciate everybody's patience with that. And we will wrap this up, and just want to say thanks one more time.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Invite me to it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you as well.
Take care, everybody. Have a great day.
Take care.
You know.